Can you think of any, like, from your opinion, because you're really knowledgeable on the subject, more knowledgeable than me, right? So do you think there's any improvements that can be made for as far as gun control goes, or do you think we just say fuck it and leave it exactly how it is?
No, I say we say fuck it, and we open it up to what it's supposed to be.
Actually, and is that like just nationwide, federally, same shit?
It's pretty close. So here's, and it's starting to happen from the Fifth Circuit, and then the Supreme Court's going to have to address it. But a lot of these regulations and restrictions are actually getting struck down after this 2021 or 2022, I can't remember, Bruin decision, because of what Clarence Thomas put in the decision. He said that any regulation or restriction on guns has to be within the common and historical traditions at the time of the adoption of the Second Amendment, which is pretty crazy, right? Because there's not a lot that we do. Right. One thing that we do, and has been done to every right, and we have accepted as a society that this is okay, is that when someone commits a certain level of criminal act and they are convicted for it, they lose access to the right for a period of time that could, depending on the circumstances, last the rest of their life. Right. So let's say we've got someone who goes into a mall and he shoots. He doesn't kill anybody, but he's just going blam, blam, blam. He's very irresponsible with a gun.
Yeah.
So he's got a felony reckless endangerment charge, maybe probably not attempted murder, but maybe an attempted manslaughter, something like that. So he's got that charge. He loses. He goes to prison. He gets, we'll say 5 years. Because again, no one dies, but he puts a bunch of people in danger and fear. So he gets his 5 years. He serves his 3.5 years because he gets out a little early. He does his 5 years probation. Now, the question is, at the end, he's served his time. Does he get his gun rights back? And this is where it needs to be a case-by-case basis. This man was specifically irresponsible with guns. So there's a good argument to say he never gets his gun rights back. He should maybe get his voting rights back. He should get his speech rights, all of those things. But he doesn't get his gun rights back. Now you got the same sort of situation. Someone embezzles $100,000 from a bank or whatever. They go to federal prison for 5 years. They're out on probation for 5 years. And during that time, they're a felon. They don't get a gun. But they serve their 10. They're all done. Do they get their gun rights back? Their crime had nothing to do with guns. They didn't demonstrate any irresponsibility with guns. So maybe they should get their gun rights back. We currently don't do it this way. We currently say, if you're a felon, you never get your gun rights back.
Right.
And I think that runs foul of the Second Amendment.
I agree.
But we're starting to see regulations like that, and this will be attacked, make no mistake. And Amy Coney Barrett's dissenting opinion that she was grilled on during her Supreme Court nomination hearings, they're going to come up as in a positive way on the I guess on the briefs, and maybe even the opinion that overturns that. But what we're seeing in the lower courts, the district courts of the United States, is where they say, just because you're a user of an illegal drug, because right now, if you say, I use cocaine, right? I'm a user of an illegal drug. I use cocaine. Therefore, the government will not allow you to own a gun. It's like, wait, why? And we're finally asking this question. Why can't someone who on occasion has used cocaine own a gun? Now, we don't want them to use a gun while they're on it. We don't want someone who is currently drunk to use a gun. But imagine how crazy it would be if we said, are you a consumer of alcohol? You go, yeah, I have like 3 drinks a week. Nope, you can't own a gun because you might use it while you're intoxicated. Is an unrealistic and insane restriction. But we do it with marijuana, cocaine, LSD, any illegal drug. Any illegal drug gets that. Even if you have a prescription for it, even if it's legal in your state, if it's illegal federally, no gun for you. That just got struck down in the Fifth Circuit. So that's going to end up going to the Supreme Court. Now we've got the other one. There's a domestic violence restraining order against you. And that used to be no guns when you have a domestic violence restraining order. But the judge just said, we don't have a tradition of taking away guns just based on a restraining order, because a restraining order is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. They just have to raise enough. Basically, they have to get to 51% that the person is in reasonable fear to put the restraining order on them. Now, we can restrain them from using the gun on the person, but wait, so they don't get to defend themselves because someone else came up with a convincing story that they're scared of this person? That doesn't seem right. And that is not the full way we take away someone's rights. So, in my opinion, we need to strip all of this back to what the Second Amendment says: shall not be infringed, which means you only lose your rights when there has been a full adjudication. You have gotten your full due process, and a judge, a competent judge or jury, has decided that you do not get those rights during the time that you are under the state's jurisdiction. That is fine. That is the historical tradition of regulation of every right in the country. Anything beyond that, I think, needs the highest levels of scrutiny and needs to be strongly watched. And I can't perceive what more we need than that, because we don't get to do pre-crime. We don't get to say, oh, you just don't get a gun because you might do something. Fuck that. Fuck the government.
Yeah. And I feel like if you look at places, for example, like where I live, that is just, so I can open carry wherever I want. Like where I live, I can just have a freaking Desert Eagle on my belt if I want to, correct? So that being the case, no one, the amount of crime, specifically where I am, is so low, right? It's a very, very, because would you break into a house, Nick? Would you break into a house if you knew for a fact that all these people on your street had like 912 gauges in their house?
Fuck that.
No, but if you lived in Chicago and you know you're in a gun-free zone and you can't own a gun legally in this gun-free zone, you might be like, I'll go in there. I can break in there. They're not going to shoot me, right? Because, which this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but it's so damn annoying when I watch horror movies. I watched one yesterday. It is so annoying when and it was a horror movie based on a stalker, not a ghost or anything. It's so annoying when it's like 3 a.m. in these movies and somebody's trying to break into the house, or they do break into the house, or they sneak into the house, and the main actor that's like scared never has a gun. Ever in these movies, they're always like, oh, they have a baseball bat. I'm like, why do they ever? You could have a gun and you'd be totally fine in all these situations, but you always get your ass kicked and you're always like tied up and getting abused and shit because you didn't have a damn gun every time. It's so silly. So yeah, yep. I agree. I've never really talked about gun control. I've always kind of, I've never really, known a lot of nuance about it other than, I think I'm pro 2A. So me saying something like maybe there could be more background checks, I didn't really consider the other fact. So I agree with you now that less, just less across the board shall not be infringed. Exactly like you said, because it makes more sense that way. It just does. It makes more sense to just be straight up shall not be infringed. No, thank you, and be done with it, because that's what it says. And disarming people for any reason, especially when like their crime, has nothing to do with that, or like you said, somebody gets a restraining order and now they can't operate, like have a gun, they can't defend themselves in their own homes when they're not even involved with this person. Seems very, very insane. So I 100% agree with you. That's you made a lot of very good this is exactly why I wanted to talk about it, because I've never really talked about gun control. All I really think about it is I have a lot of guns. I think guns are cool. That's pretty much the end of it for me, right? So I was like, man, we need to talk about gun control, because I've always kind of like wondered, like, is there improvements to be made? And you made a compelling enough argument that I completely agree. You know what I'm saying?